Hello, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes. Today is 2020, July 27th. We're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi's visiting Taiwan. And I'm 007. I have my co-host, Lily. Please, Lily.
Hello, everyone. PPT1, please. Today, we're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi. Apparently, her visit to Taiwan is making headlines. We have Sky News from Australia is saying that Nancy Pelosi visit to Taiwan is not welcome. And this comment is made by former Prime Minister of Australia, Paul Keating. Why is he speaking such a statement for an ex-politician? What's the big fuss about visiting Taiwan? Let's find out who is Nancy Pelosi. PP2, please. Nancy Pelosi. Her name is not foreign the last few years, especially during the time of Trump. Pelosi was involved with politics since an early age. Her father was the mayor of Baltimore. She helped her father at his campaign often. In fact, she was in attendance when John F. Kennedy was sworn into office. At that time, she was only 21 in 1961. She's an advocate, an avert advocate of democracy and human rights movement. In fact, in 1989, during the Tiananmen Square massacre, she opposed the stance of China. She opposed expanding of trade relation with China. In 1991, Nancy Pelosi was arrested in Beijing for crimes of hooliganism by the Chinese Communist Party at Tiananmen Square. She went there to lay a wreath for the slain June 4th protester. In 1999, when Zhu Rongji visited U.S., she went to President Clinton to talk about human rights issue in China and asked Zhu Rongji to improve the pro-democracy movement and recognize the 1989 protests. Her role as House Speaker, her first tenureship of House Speaker was in 2007 to 2011. This is her second House Speakership from 2019 to present. The office of House Speaker is quite a powerful one in America. In fact, that office is the third in line to the presidency. If anything were to happen to the president or the vice president. Next, move on to PPC3. PPT3 about
PPT3.
China. Now, Ling Ji, Ling Chi, why is China so concerned, and the politicians around the world so concerned about Pelosi's visit to Taiwan?
Well, this is we have to review some historical situations. Okay, so China claimed Taiwan as its one territory, so-called the one China policy. I don't know how valid it is. Do you remember that when the American granted, well, recognized as a one China policy, okay, they never referred whether it's mainland China or the Republic of China, that is Taiwan. Okay, that's Chiang Kai-shek's government. They flew in by the end of the World War II. They have a domestic fighting between Communist China and the Nationalist China. Nationalist China, in the end, okay, the Communist China, by what? By deception and tell Americans that we're going to have a democratic, okay, society and country system like yours once we are in power. So, and also we're going to give, one vote, one people, one vote for everyone. So basically just to copy Americans' freedom of speech, freedom, okay, of religion, freedom of this and that, everything. And probably they even plot the picture they're going to even do better than Americans. However, that's a lie history has proven. Okay, so when this so-called one China policy, okay, from United States foreign policy to China, to Chinese people was given, there is nothing legally specified. It is a communist China or nationalist China. Indeed, we know that the nationalist China have the legitimacy of carry out the culture, preserve the tradition in Taiwan for since 1949, since they flew to Taiwan and the CCP take over. So that is the argument of one China argument, and China, in contrast, proclaim they're the only legitimate body that it's referred to as one China policy. We know that it's not true. You look at you look at so many countries, okay, so many countries that were actually recognize Taiwan as China. They call them China, Taiwan, and there is Beijing, China. So the other issue is that the one China policy was that we're not going to specify the U.S. policy made such ambiguity that they're not going to specify that this China is different from that China. So I assume two different way of doing business. One is a Western democratic system such as Taiwan, okay, really in line with what American wanted. But in China, I suppose, due to the supply chain issue, we can see, due to World Trade Organization signed deals with them, with China, and they let China open to the market. That's how the communist China's business flourished from according to my score, from 1.5 trillion to now 15 trillion, as they said. All right. So that's the argument. But I think this time, if Nancy Pelosi stepped to China, then this whole story will change, which means it was unprecedented, yes. So, but once Nancy Pelosi stepped into China, okay, step to Taiwan, this will change the sentiment, okay, and especially in the CCP's military development preparations to trying to take Taiwan, threaten Taiwan. So in this is the situation, and the sensitivity time just before the 20th People's Congress, this is very important. Xi Jinping want to have a 20th People's Congress soon this year, somewhat later this year. I think at the third quarter to the fourth quarter. When they have the Congress, so-called People's Congress, There's no Congress, no People's Congress. Definitely, it's all dictatorship. So we call the rubber stamp, so-called People's Representative Committee. Okay, from the heads to the members, they were all CCP senior cards. They often swap position between the party leadership line and the People's Committee. Okay, setting up supposed to be a independent, like an upper house, okay, or low house. In that way, they have the voting system, but you can't even get into the member of the committee unless you're a Communist Party member or you are very much been BGY'd by CCP. So you're going to vote what CCP want you to vote. There isn't anyone. I mean, you can give up, maybe a couple of people can give up the right to vote, but if you don't vote for them, if you vote against ever, then you're going to be in trouble. Definitely going to be take off your seats in that case. And that is one important aspect we want to mention. Another one is that according to my score, it probably likely that high probability Xi Jinping will start to threaten and actually have military actions to take Taiwan. For example, patrolling between the borderline between China and Taiwan, which is about only 400 kilometers wide. So they will be bought in the middle line, so 200 each side in the middle. I think that patrolling will seen as what, as a like a put like a jail, okay, a security, defense and attacking system around Taiwan. So it will control the supply flow in and out Taiwan. In other words, the trade. I mean, we know Taiwan is a very developed economy, have important supply chain like silicons and chips, microchips to the rest of the world, especially in US. By cutting that, that the water and build up a military war around Taiwan, it will only intensify the situation. And given this strategy, they have 19 military new establishment in the coastline between Dalian, Fujian, and Hong Kong. So we can say they can, in 1 second, they can start to massively shooting the missiles in the Taiwan, destroy its power and the military base. And there isn't enough time for, no matter how advanced the defensive system set up by US military supplies, you won't have time. They'll be finished. So this is a dangerous step. It will put both people in Taiwan and mainland China in a great danger. And that's why they won't have this Congress. In the Congress, Xi Jinping will continue to be the dictatorship. Okay. However, there is a possibility, according to my score, that the anti-Xi Jinping side of the senior cards, like Jiang's family, Zhu Rongji's family mentioned, okay, and also Zheng Qinghong's family, they probably will rise up and trying to force Xi Jinping to resign, or some kind of a party struggles. Now, this struggle between members of the left and the right, you call them, okay, Xi Jinping as a dictatorship, and the rest of the guys were a dictatorship anyway. They just united the dictatorship for their own survival, trying to engage in on all kind of tricks and fightings between them. So this will be very important as well in terms of what will happen to in terms of the mainland, okay, military activity, and that motion, and that kind of threatening will become a military reality or not. All right, this is what I think, and we should be taking a close look at them and be very careful as well. So, and another thing is I want to talk about the Pelosi visit from U.S. point of view. So from them, the Democrat. So we have a PPT for Biden.
Yes, that's very insightful comment, Ling Chi. Yes, like I wonder what this the Democrats think of Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. A few days ago, President Biden did think that there were headlines saying that President Biden doesn't think House Speaker Nancy Pelosi should visit Taiwan, a sharp break with his congressional ally that signals the fear of provoking China. And also, China pledged to to have countermeasures against the USA. At the same time, the military also think that have signals saying that it's not a good idea to visit for Pelosi to visit Taiwan. This is very uncommon. Obviously, there are two forces fighting in. There are two forces fighting in the U.S. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think President Biden has the right to dictate the House Speaker Pelosi not to visit Taiwan. Obviously, it has been done before in 1997. The Republican House Speaker, I have to get his name later, did visit Taiwan in 1997. Your comment, Ling Chi, what do you think?
Well, I think whatever Biden says, as a U.S. president, he got the right to say what he wants to say. And I think Pelosi seems very determined. You remember she was supposed to visit Taiwan in April, but that didn't happen. According to Miles Gore, it was threatened that this and that, and then Biden softened up. President Biden then offered to cut the tariff from the import from China supply. And then Pelosi is supposed to be landing in Taiwan in June, but that didn't happen. Okay. Then I think end of May and the end of June, it didn't happen. Now, according to Miles Gore, is that in August there will be a Pelosi will want to go again. I don't see Nancy Pelosi really whatever she said. You review her, pro-democratic history, so she would love to see China, become a democratic society. Okay, at least that's what she said. And but I think when you mentioned that the U.S. military also warned Pelosi not to go to China, I'm not military guy, but I guess they should act uniformly together as to how to solve the China problem. But we know United States, different power parties have a different say. This is allowed. So it's not one voice. It's not like a dictatorship. That shows that it's a democratic, debating system, even in the most important foreign policies, such as the one China policy or Taiwan, visit Taiwan. So that shows there's a flexibility, there's a negotiation. Of course, on the Miles Gore, there should be a trade-off. On the table deal is done. That's politics. Fair enough. I mean, we know there's pros and cons for this. So we can only see what action Nancy Pelosi will take will determine whether she has the power and she convinced the majority that it's a good idea to go. But this thing have said that, okay, on another side, if you don't go, which means no matter what excuses you're given, which means you'll be just being dictated by the CCP. So a U.S. foreign policy to Taiwan should never be determined by CCP. This shows a weakness. I don't think this doesn't show flexibility. In principal questions like, when CCP threatened to have a war, and when, everyone seems ready back with NATO and Europe, and then if Americans, leaders doesn't take the leadership to dare to visit Taiwan, yet to be threatened and to be directed by CCP to China, and I think this will send a message to CCP. Yeah, they win again, and they're gonna have the propaganda army will start brainwashing everyone in China. You see, the U.S. is a paper tiger. We are not afraid of them. This will make Xi Jinping, whether they have a 20th Congress or not, they could have taken Taiwan with a lightning speed, and the disaster situation will be there will be temporary, maybe permanent cut off the supply chain of the semiconductor chips, which we know is so important for building up the supercomputer and maybe even quantum computers, accessories and parts and so on. So I don't think U.S. and the world can afford the risk of allowing China to dictate, to direct the action that Nancy Pelosi, as a House Speaker, will take. I think that's my view. Back to you, Lily.
I think what you say is very true. Maybe that's why Mike Pompeo come out and say he will go with Nancy just to make sure that the Democrats don't back down. I'm sure personally, I think Nancy Pelosi would love to visit Taiwan because this will be an historical event. Let's play the video of Fox News clips, please.
Look, it's exactly the kind of confusion that enabled Putin to mislead himself about Ukraine. We need to be very, very clear, and this is part of why I went. We had a lot of tension in 96, 97, and President Clinton and I collaborated in trying to send very strong signals, including putting American aircraft carriers in the Taiwan Strait. So I would say she absolutely has to go now. She cannot allow the Chinese Communist dictatorship to think that it can bully an American Speaker of the House. And frankly, she ought to tell the Pentagon and the State Department to shut up. They're always timid, they're always risk averse, and they don't get it. It's very important to show strength so the Chinese Communists understand that we're real and we're not just, as Mao called us, a paper tiger.
Okay, let's move on to the next PPT, please, regarding why, from another aspect, Taiwan is so important to the U.S. It's about the chips. Taiwan is the biggest producer of chips that Taiwan supplies the world's chip, a very big market. Lini Chi, would you like to comment on Taiwan's chip?
Yeah, the Taiwanese has been the majority of supply of the high-speed computers. I think they call computers chips. These chips are widely used not only in communication and in automobile communication, but also in military and communication as well. So it is a crucial. We cannot afford to have the chips supply cut off if CCP want to control Taiwan's waterways and dictate what should come in and out of Taiwan. This is dangerous. So, and the CCP has threatened to just ruin Taiwan, make it like a ocean of fire. In other words, they're going to use tens of thousands of those missiles in the short distance, and they're going to push the button one go. This will really, there's no defense you can do that. There's just too many of them. So, and the distance is very short as well between mainland Fujian and Taiwan. So that's and we already knowing the slowdown of the chips manufacturing for Taiwan have resulted in new cars delivery, such as Land Rover and so on. You gotta wait for 12 months before you order. And some friends ordered the more advanced model, but due to there's no chips there, they have to renegotiate a contract, a buy and sales contract, to cut down and just accept the base model rather than advanced model with more automatic functions and control. because the chips is not available, so they cut down the top of the range model supplies. From this phenomenon, this is already going on for at least last 6 to 12 months, okay? Because it's threatening, because there's also some part of some part of the side accessories go with it together as well, not just one chips, but I assume these RAMs and so on. Some are manufactured in China, probably through Taiwan, okay? And so all that will result in a GDP reduction of receiving countries for need the chips, because we know that the manufacturing from Europe, from United States, especially high technologies, you have to rely on the chips for it to work. Okay, so it's and that chips might not be worth, in terms of the total cost to build up the car, for example. Okay, and then but without the chips, the whole thing doesn't work. It's just a bunch of just a machine looks good, but it doesn't really operate with high efficiency and with the design purposes, functions as well. So therefore, it is so important that we must protect the supply. And that is so vulnerable if dictatorship like Xi Jinping get crazy, decide to take Taiwan, just for the purpose to preserve his position as an emperor in China, okay? As the son, okay, the son of Xi Jinping, then he could do that. In that way, he's still the #1 dictatorship of China. And that's more important than the wealth, safety, security of world supplies or the people in Taiwan. I think this is why we should take down the CCP. And the international, the world, the NATO should be united together to actually stop the aggression of the CCP's military, and dictatorship. Back to you.
What you say is so correct. In fact, the U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo has warned that without access to Taiwan's chips, America could go into immediate economic downturn. Last of all, let's go to what our beloved Mouse have to say. Please play the video.
现在全球很多媒体报道佩洛西将于8月访台，如果访问成功，将对台海局势产生哪些影响？中共将会有哪些反应？佩洛西访不访台是美国的事儿，咱最早报出来。我们在美国不掺和任何美国政治，我们要的是灭共。Nancy Pelosi 如果要去了，影响有多大？我可以告诉大家，只要 Nancy Pelosi 踏上台湾这一脚，它远远超过台湾战争的本身。对美国的利益是超过战争的本身。为什么？给美国所有以后的政治家走向台湾开启了一个最好的头。现任美国最有权力的人，现任议长，如果说今天 Nancy Pelosi 在台湾和中共国和美国世界经济和俄乌战争，在这种情形下去的，那 Nancy 那几乎就是宣布了台湾独立。而且没有人可以再阻挡美国任何人去台湾，总统再去都不是什么热点，这就是啪啪啪的拿屁崩那个高艳艳的老公和王岐山拉帮套的那个王洪光中国军人的脸。这个北约的这个将军说句话特别好，他如果 Nancy Pelosi 去了台湾，他说只需到台湾站一站就行，就回来就行了。他说基本上全世界所有人都认为台湾是独立的，最重要的事情在军事上从此没有界限。也就是北约、日本任何的军人、军队去台湾、到台湾驻扎，那就正常。而且说马上日本就会宣布，台湾所有的军人要到日本培训，日本军人要跟台湾交流，那就等于派兵进入台湾。然后日本就开始说，我在台湾那里帮助他设安防，就是把你视为一个等同于国家主权。然后日本就马上修宪完以后，就说只要台湾战争，同时就跟日本联动。别忘了，美国在日本的 NMD、TMD 就是国家防导弹系统和地区防导系统，美国的爱国者导弹防御系统全部都跟台湾连线，那就是共产党来打台湾的可能性永远不会存在。那个时候，如果是日本和欧洲和美国联防台湾，它的目标应该是福建以西1000公里， 就是我的打击目标就是中国内部的1000公里，广西、上海、山东、威海、青岛这些地方。中共福建到日本860公里，日本会在台湾以往西推1000公里之内来作为打击目标，那这一切就结束了。如果 Nancy Pelosi 到了台湾，共产党彻底完了，共产党嘎嘣完了，中国人少死人少动乱。如果是 Nancy Pelosi 上去以后，共产党又死又不死，撑个3-5年或者再多几年，中国人死的人会更多。中共我觉得最后一定是封锁台湾，禁飞区，只要 Nancy Pelosi 一飞，一定禁飞台湾。我觉得 Nancy 能飞到台湾的成功率不超过50%，佩洛西会有很大的可能性不去，这个事太大了。然后如果他要去的话我认为一定是封锁台湾，80%的可能性开战的可能性并不大。封锁以后双方较量，最后讲述拉倒。
Wow.
Well, certainly there's a lot of messages there. Our beloved Miles, he has the closest, the most accurate intelligence so far. He predicted, he raised the point of possibility of Nancy Pelosi visits in April and June, and now. So until our beloved Miles have the first-hand intelligence, even surpass officials in any government. Ling Chi.
Well, this is sort of surprising how specifically Moscow has been whistleblower out, as if he is one who has been participating in the U.S. government and the military plans, which we think is not, because Miles is not interested in the politics of America, of the U.S. government, but more interested in the safety, security of people in China, mainland China, and in Taiwan island as well. So I think we know we are not surprised, is because no matter what is happening, the Chinese intelligence would know what, roughly that Pelosi is going to come. I think between two big countries, superpowers, number one, U.S. economic power, number one, two is CCP's China. I think they have the back door open to talk about it. So this information has been, I guess, been passed to Miles Gore from the China side, from the intelligence. We know that the Miles Gore has, we have so many whistleblowers are inside the CCP, even surrounding Xi Jinping. And often Miles Gore said, I can tell you what Xi Jinping is doing every single second. Okay, I have a special, like a little monitor I can open. I will see him, what he's doing. I mean, this is without have such a capability and power and connection, and also with committed, whistleblowers inside all fabric of Chinese communism, including military, government, parties, and also businesses, finances, the banking system, and so on. He would never be able to have such accurate information over the last 5.5 years. And he may not be always right, but he has been never wrong. He may not be always, quite right in terms of timing, maybe a little bit later and so on, but he has never been wrong, in terms of, what he told us about it. And that's why we're so committed to follow him, to basically just copycat what he said and trying to share with more people with our own account, Getter and Twitter as well. So I think the chances, Miles Gore said very clearly, 50% Pelosi will not make the flight. But then if he did make the flight, then they may be a military warnings called no-fly zone will be proclaimed, stated by CCP's military or China, And when that happens, I would like to challenge, why should the US listen to China's proclaimed zone over Taiwan? while Taiwan is also could be explained as one China policy. Now, I mean, Taiwan is the preferred partner of one China's definition. Nothing stop US do that,
Yeah.
because that's all up to US.
Yeah.
Okay, so why not they change that definition and they playing? Then your CCP is China. It's a legitimate government immediately. You gotta surrender yourself, otherwise, we'll in 3 minutes, as Miles said, we're gonna take you down. But most importantly, I think from here, one should know that once if Pelosi successfully land in Taiwan, in Miles Go's words, as long as you land in Taiwan, you don't do much, you fly back. What happened? NATO, Europe, the rest of the world mostly will recognize Taiwan as an independent nation. That is called that one China is referred to. The defined action speak loud by words. So Pelosi's visiting to Taiwan will change in history in terms of will make what? I mean, strategically, we just they could even make a statement. One China policy now applied to Republic of China, Taiwan. That's it. That means, and we all agree that's no big deal. But then secondly, Japan, it will make Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, become united partners in terms of what? In terms of operation, military operation. And then the Japan will send expert to Taiwan to set up the defensive system and offense system. And then Taiwan will send the soldiers to be trained in Japan. So they become one together as one party, one unit, plus the United States together with 500 miles away military missile capability, and that will together the Japanese and Taiwan combined with the US, they will taking care of a zone between the southeast Chinese land and stretching into the west for 6 to 1,000 kilometers. That may also cover Shanghai and cover all the Wuhan, cover Chongqing and those military areas as well. So really, I think this is how it is so significant that the Nancy Pelosi will visit Taiwan. And Pompeo said that he will want to follow as well if he want to come as well. So I think Pompeo is intending to participate as a candidate for the new president for the next one. So I think he's the one who before at the Trump government, he's the one made a claimed that the Chinese CCP, it's such an evil. They committed a genocide for Xinjiang and the Uyghurs. So he is definitely a fighter against communist China. So if both of them landed there, I think that will be the end of the CCP, as Miles said. And it send up the signal, will put Japan, Taiwan, and US military force be united together with the military mighty capability, and China have CCP's military has no chance. We see recently the militaries, military communication post been designed, built in a human intensive population area in the major cities, and that is a anti-humanitarian crime by design. Construction plan and action of it, completion, it's a proof of that. So CCP is the enemy of the human race. So anyone could attack them once, especially Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Back to you, Lily.
Yes, you had given a lot of information there, and they are very insightful. I couldn't agree with you more. CCP's evil deeds around the world, especially in China itself, has to be stopped. They have to be taken down. So that concludes our show today. Thank you for being with us. Before we go, we just like to acknowledge our viewers. Wonton, Itohua, thank you for joining us, and all the viewers on our show today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week in 30 minutes this time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Lily. Good night, everyone.
Are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you. He sees you in his dreams. You send Jake down to CCP, 'cause it's God's will. It's God's will. So I'm with you, and I'll see you when we get the CCP. Yeah. So